Most of what's happening in your life is a choice. It's your choice whether you're living the life of a victim or you're living the life of an overcomer, because you have a choice to do that. Most people have no idea whatsoever. They're not able to decide what they want to do with their life, and they think that things are happening to them, when in reality, in faith, we either have an expectation of good or we have an expectation of bad, evil. So lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. That evil, when you interpret it into Greek, is actually the word poor. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from being poor in spirit, poor in health, poor in mind. So we have a choice that we are either going to be a victim and we're going to live in default mode where things are happening to us that we are actually bringing into our own lives because we don't have the faith to live as an overcomer and live in the life that we're supposed to live. So we have two choices. We can live as a victim, or we can live as an overcomer. And we have a choice. If we're a victim and we're playing the part of a victim, because that's what we're doing here on earth, you're playing a part. You've been told you're just, surviving, but you're not. You're playing a part. And the people who understand this are living different lives than people who don't. Because if you're a victim, you live in a default mode. You're guided by your ego and your flesh. But if you're an overcomer, you're taking responsibility for the things that are happening in your life. And we're going to talk about how to do this, how to live this lifestyle. And you're responding to things that are happening in your life. When as a victim, you're reacting. And there's a very clear path here. When we make the decision that we're going to take responsibility for our life, we start to deal with our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings. As an overcomer, and we're living in responsibility, and we're responding to things, that means capturing our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. We're taking them into account. We're holding them accountable, because our thoughts, emotions, and feelings are actually being sown into the spirit realm that creates the things that are happening in our life. Not everything, but most things. And it's creating and giving us the reaping of the responding that we're doing or the reacting that we're doing. So if we don't understand this process, then we're going to suffer and we're going to live in survival mode. And we suffer. Once again, the word suffer can be used good or bad. Suffering in our minds, the way we were taught, to suffer is to live in agony or pain or struggle or lack. But suffer can also mean living in emotional exuberance or being overwhelmed. So we can suffer in two different ways. Not enough or too much. And then that's what keeps moving us back and forth in this cycle of survival. So when we're reacting, now the best part about this is I'm going to teach you how to be emotionally literate in a few minutes. And I'm going to teach you how to go in to capture your emotions, thoughts, and feelings and hold them accountable so that they're not destroying your life. Because you'll notice, and you probably have, that people who are confident, people who are wealthy, people who are in positions of leadership are calm. They're not run by their emotions. The more emotional a person is, the more whacked out a person is, then the more chaotic a person is, and the more survival mode they're living in, and the more suffering they have in their life. So we want to learn emotional illiteracy. And I'm going to use it as an example like this. 2 plus 2 equals 4. It says the soldier does not get caught up in the affairs of this world, caught up in his emotions, caught up in his thoughts, caught up in his feelings, but he serves the one who enlisted him. So we have to be like a soldier. And we're going to talk more about this in a second. Then it says that an athlete knows the rules, and that's how he wins the game in Scripture. And then it says the farmer does the work and receives the first fruit. The farmer. All right? And this is in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4, 5, and 6. And then in verse 7, it says, and God will give you understanding in all these things. In all these things. And so as a soldier, we don't get caught up. We catch up. We take authority. We take responsibility. Because if we're emotionally illiterate or we have a low emotional quotient called an EQ, like your IQ, and you've never been taught this before and you don't understand this, and this is something, I'm going to guess that only about, in the world, less than 1% of people understand what I'm going to share with you today. In America, it's a little bit higher because people have started to share and teach about what your thoughts do through quantum physics and quarks and interdimensional movement from the fourth dimension or the third dimension that we live in into quarks. As when there's only quarks only appear in our dimension, in our third dimension, in pairs. Whenever they split a quark, they disappear. And then when they come back together in the fourth dimension, they reappear in our dimension. So now through quantum physics, we understand through wave theory and through particles that there is another dimension. And so now we don't have as much teaching about atheism because people are starting to be like, okay, we're not alone here. I think we've gotten to that point now where we don't have to argue about, is there a God? Or is there something besides just this earth? You would have to literally be crazy today to think that we're here without a purpose and without having influence from other realms or dimensions that are affecting your life. And it affects your life through your thoughts, emotions, and your feelings. We're going to use TIFF, thoughts, emotions, and feelings, because TIFF, like when you're exasperated, you're like, TIFF. It's because your thoughts, emotions, and feelings are producing, right? The farmer does the work, and he receives what? Fruit. You're receiving the fruit of your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And if you have chaos in your life, it's because there's chaos in your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And we're told to be like soldiers, that we don't get caught up in the world, that we become the authority and we catch the world. We catch the thoughts, we catch the feelings, we catch the emotions, and we hold them accountable. We hold them accountable. We're going to do this in a minute because you're going to become emotionally literate so that your thoughts, emotions, and feelings no longer control your life and no longer produce the results that you're getting in your life, because these are reacting through the ego, they're reacting through the flesh, and reacting to what's happening in your life in a negative way. And because of that, you go into default mode and you're not becoming an overcomer, you have a victim mentality. So let's talk about the litmus test. Talk about the litmus test. The litmus test in your life that determines whether you're in your thoughts, emotions, and feelings is the question, am I a victim in this scene? Am I a victim in this part of the play that I'm in on this earth as a person who has a purpose and a program that I'm following and being led into, even if I'm resisting it? The litmus test is am I allowing myself to be a victim? versus being an overcomer. How do you know the difference? Because if you're a victim, you're going to be in survival mode. The number one sign of a victim is someone who's blaming other people, circumstances, or issues for their problems. They're blaming. The other one is, there's an unlimited supply of victim characteristics, but if you're living in and you can't figure out and you don't know how to figure out what's going on and what you can do to change your life, then you're confused, right? And you're not going to find the results you need. But as an overcomer, we take responsibility, right? Because the opposite of blame is responsibility. Right? The opposite of survival is abundance. Now, we are abundant. Is grass abundant? Are trees abundant? Are apples abundant? Is sand abundant? Is glass abundant? Everything is abundant. Okay? When things are young and fresh, they're abundant. As you get older, your abundance changes into other things, but you're still abundant. There's no such thing as lack because everything is abundance. The only thing that keeps you from abundance is your victim mentality because it brings you into a place of lack because you're sowing. Listen, this is important. You're sowing, right? Because you have a choice. Your expectation, right? Your expectation can be either evil, right? And remember, evil means poor. Or your expectation can be good or abundance. And you're like, yeah, but, and you start having all these reasons why things don't work for you. That is a victim mentality, and that's why we have to overcome your mindset that is keeping you in bondage, literally cursed, because your beliefs, your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, right? So here's your expectation. This comes from your beliefs. And those beliefs create the life. Let me do this. I cannot believe I left that out. There we go. That was easy. All right. It creates the life that you're living because your beliefs are the fruit of your beliefs are your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. So if your beliefs are an expectation of good, your thoughts, emotions, and feelings are going to be good. That is what you're sowing, and that is the result you're going to get. If your thoughts, emotions, and feelings are evil or poor or lack or suffering or blaming or victimhood, every time something goes wrong, you've got a reason it went wrong. It's because you're emotionally illiterate, and God has a plan for your life, and He has a way for you to do it. That's why He said, the athlete wins the game. We're in this game of life. You can win this game for your family, for your friends, for your business, for your finances, for your health. Everything can change once you start playing the game. You have to practice your faith. What is your faith? You're already practicing your faith, but you're probably doing it if things aren't going right for you as a victim, and then you're blaming others, and it snowballs into chaos and bad experiences. And so this is your opportunity. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to go into your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, right? We're going to show you how to go into them and to move them from evil and poor into good, into sowing what's good. Why? Because the athlete knows the rules and wins the game. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 5. And then once you know the rules, then you practice sowing, which is what the farmer did in verse 6. And then God gives you understanding in verse 7 once you start to read and move into these things. So faith is a choice. You're already practicing faith. You're already doing faith. Faith is happening to you right now, whether you want it to or not. So if it's going to happen whether you want it to or not, you do not want to be reacting to the things in your life. You want to be responding. The word respond, right here, right, means to, your response means to spend. Again, because means again, and spons in the Greek means to spend. So you are spending your thoughts, emotions, and feelings that are wrapped up in all of these beliefs of confusion, survival, and blame, and you are speaking and spending your expectation of good or evil, your expectation of evil or being poor, you're spending that energy, that spiritual energy, into the fourth dimension, and you are reaping the fruit of your own beliefs and your own emotions and your own feelings and your own expectation, because you've never been taught what to do and how to respond and become an overcomer. Wealthy people teach their children not to respond emotionally because emotions are destructive. Listen to what I'm saying. You say, well, I'm going to have emotions. Yes, you're going to have emotions, but emotions are a sign that tell you what you believe. Look, the entire middle of the word beliefs is a lie. Most of what you believe is a lie. You were taught it from the time you were 0 years old in your mother's womb, getting stimulus from outside the womb, voices, arguments, maybe drugs, different things like that. And that started to create, because you're in a state of just receiving, a hypnotic state until you're like 7 years old. You're just receiving all this information. And I hate to say it, but most of that information, unless you had an important person in your life who understood these things, is going to be evil and poor and blame and survival and lack. And you don't have to live like that. You live like that because you're still living by the code that you were given as a child of how things work. And that's not how they work. Your beliefs are mostly lies. I'm going to share this with you because it's good. When we have thoughts, emotions, and feelings, most of them are based in fear. Fear are your thoughts, emotions, and feelings that keep you in victimhood, because most of your emotions, thoughts, and feelings come from fear. Anxiety, worry, lack, suffering, anger, blame, everything that gives you a negative feeling, guilt, shame, blasphemy, cursing, frustration, all these things. You've been hurt. Fear is holding it in you. But your fear, your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, your fear is what brings you into your dreams. Your fear is what is the road to your dreams. Because fear is what you're going to respond to in your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, which are based in victimhood. And when you start to respond, listen, when you start to respond as an overcomer, from a victim, because you become a soldier. Because to get this freedom, you're going to have to fight. We'll show you what to do. It's not hard. You're going to know the rules because you're an athlete. They know the rules. That's how they win, because they know what's going on. They understand the process. It's myself again. And then there's the farmer. And as you do the work, you're going to be sowing the new seed. Listen, the new seed. The new seed comes from your fear that brings you to your dreams. And it's all going to happen because you're going to take every thought, emotion, and feeling captive, and you're going to hold them accountable before God, and using the rules. Watch this. We're going to do the process that allows us to take our fears and turn them into dreams. That we're going to take our thoughts, emotions, and our feelings, and we're going to hold them accountable, right? We're going to hold them accountable before God so that they can be registered as having quality and value, or they're fake, they're a lie, and they dissolve and are gone because of the grace of God to overcome at the deepest levels the parts of our soul that have been sold into slavery and live in bondage instead of living in peace and producing the things that we actually desire and want, because we finally understand the emotional turmoil and how it can be used for good or for evil, because our faith can expect good or it can expect evil. So when you're living when you're a soldier and you're not getting caught up in the things of this world, and you don't allow them to grasp onto you and take control of your mind, force you into the amygdala where you make stupid decisions and do stupid things, and have an expectation that bad things are going to happen because you're a victim and you live in survival and lack, and you expect things to go wrong, then things are going to go wrong, because this world we live in, the game we're playing, the rules, there's physical law, spiritual law, and divine law. We're already practicing spiritual law. That's the big one. That's the one that causes all the problems. Every problem? No. Just most of them. Is this going to fix every problem in your life? Pretty much, yeah. I would say yes. It would bring it to the place where it has to line up with God and His purpose for your life. Because there's a plan for you. You're not here by mistake. This isn't an accident. Nothing that's happening to you is an accident. It's all trying to get you to understand and see that there's a purpose for your life, and God wants to use you, and He usually uses you in things that you've been in bondage to, so that you can help others be free. So we're going to take this step right now. If you're still with me, you are going to want to follow this page or like or do something so you can come back here and you can do this process we're about to do over and over and over again, every single time, 10 times a day, every time you have a thought, emotion, or feeling, and you're going to, it says, do not be caught up in the things of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing. That word renew in the Greek means renovation of your mind. So I'm going to show you how to renovate your mind. The same way you gut a house. If you've ever been in a house that needs to be rebuilt from a flood, or I live in Louisiana, so it's always usually a flood. Or you buy an old house, you gut it, you take everything out, or you don't like a room, so you redecorate it. That's what we're getting ready to do. We're getting ready to take the old out, the lies from your belief system that are holding you in doubt, and we're going to move you into a place where you can be an expectation of good and attract these things into your life, because you need to do the purpose that God has put you here for, so that you can receive the first fruit. Listen, the first fruit is love, joy, peace, happiness. They did a study and they asked a bunch of people, what do you really want? And a guy would say, I want a car. And they said, well, why do you want a car? And he said, okay, because I like that girl and I know she likes cars and I want to get a car so I can date her. And they said, okay, well, what if you're dating her, why do you want to date her? He said, because I want to go, I want to have a girlfriend. I want to have somebody there with me to do things with. And they said, okay, why do you want to have somebody there? You know what he said? He said, because I want to be happy. Everything that's happening to you today is because you want to be happy. If you're caught up in drugs or alcohol or pornography or whatever it is, it's just because you want relief, because you're living as a victim and you just want to be happy, even if it's just for a moment, to get relief from the horrors of the world that we live in if we don't understand emotional literacy. So you need to become emotionally and spiritually literate so that you can overcome the things that are taking over your life. So we all just want to be happy. Guess where happiness comes from? It comes from the fruit of doing the work. And the work is what the farmer did, because he's a soldier, he's an athlete, he knows the rules, he knows what we're talking about right here, and he does the work that we're getting ready to do right now, that you're going to come back to all the time to go through your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, and we're going to not get caught up in them. Do not be caught up in your emotions. Do not be caught up in this world, but be transformed by the renewing or the renovation of your mind. And that is what's going to set you free. That is going to stop the financial blocks. That is going to stop the circle of relationships that always end up being the same, because you have an expectation of bad and you are sowing that, and guess what? You're reaping the fruit of your beliefs, which are lies, that you are not worthy, that you don't deserve the things that God has for you, because He does, and He has them for everyone. But we're going to teach this so that people can understand and do the work and start to fight, because we're soldiers. We're going to fight. We're going to start to fight so that we can have victory in our life and we can become an overcomer. So I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to do this with you because there's an unlimited supply. You know, people go to counselors for years because there's an unlimited supply of bad things your ego can come up with to pull you down and to keep you in bondage. So I'm going to close my eyes too, and I'm going to pick a subject. I'm going to pick an emotion, a feeling that's taunting me, that's harassing me, and I'm going to renovate it and bring it to a place where it's supposed to be in the will of God, that God put us here for a reason, and God has a purpose for our life so that I can be set free from the bondage that's causing me to go into all these things because I'm not happy. Because I'm not getting the fruit of doing what we're about to do. What you're about to do is going to transform your life forever. You will never be the same person after you do this one time. One time changes your life forever if you've never done this before. So do it with me now. Close your eyes. Excuse me. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. All this stuff's around you. Look, it's all there. It's all trying to get your attention. We're not going to ignore it. What they don't understand is we're looking for them. We're here to capture our thought, emotions, and feelings that are trying to stop us from doing this process, because we need to feed God's Spirit grace. Grace hungers for unbelief. It hungers for doubt. It hungers for fear. It feeds on fear. Where sin is, grace doth much more abound, because it feeds on sin and doubt, which is the reason for the cross, because the blood breaks the bondage that's holding you and keeping you in a state of victimhood. So look at your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. Pick something that's holding you down right now. Pick something that is leveraging your energy and your time against you. Pick that thing and capture it. You say, well, how do I capture a thought and emotion and a feeling? You observe it. You become aware of it. You allow yourself to feel it, because we're not afraid. We're going into the house and we're going to renovate it. We're going to go in and we're going to put our hands on the sink and we're going to take it out. We're going to go in and we'll put our hands on the cabinets and we're going to take it out. So whatever's bothering you, if it's financial, if you have a financial need, then you need to go into it. If you have a relationship need, then you need to go into it. You need to connect with it, because you're going in the name of God. You're going to connect with that thought, emotion, feeling. That's a lie that's holding you back. And you're just going to hold it in God's presence, because you have His grace. And you're going to hold it there. It's screaming and it's yelling. And it's trying to create chaos. If you get interrupted, you follow, you save this video, and you come back in a little while when literally the spiritual forces in this world try to stop you, you come back to it again. You learn this process. You grow in it, and it will set you free, because you will become mature in your relationship with the spirit realm and with God and with what God has called you to do in your life. But this is the first step. This releases all the resistance to your finances. This releases all the things in you that are resisting a good relationship that you've always wanted but could never seem to get, because they always seem to go back to the same place. That place won't exist anymore once we get finished with this process. So you're holding it. If you can picture in your mind, some people can't do it, but if you can picture in your mind, picture what that thought, emotion, or feeling looks like. It's going to look like something. I'm going to do it for you on my side. I'm looking at it. Oh, and it's emotional. You might cry because it's an emotion. But it also is birthed out of a lie. And you hold it. And I see it. I see it. It's bigger than me. My problem is bigger than me. So I'm holding it, not letting it go. It's bigger than me, but it ain't going nowhere. It can't leave, because I have control over it. And I'm just holding it there, and I'm waiting for God. I'm waiting for Him to show up. If you can imagine, you can see God coming towards you. And you're holding this thing. Maybe it's inside of you somewhere. Maybe it feels like I'll tell you what I feel like. I feel like there's a pipe inside of me. And I can't get off the pipe. I can't move. The pipe won't move. And as I'm waiting, I see the pipe going into the cement beneath my feet, like a tetherball pole. Huh. And it's holding me there. I can't move. And I won't let go of it. So we're not going anywhere. And I can see where it's been playing with my emotions. And I can see the ball on the tetherball, going back and forth, and my whole life wrapped inside of that. And I see God walking over. And as God's walking over, I'm just telling you what's happening to me right now. I don't know what's happening to you or how it works for you, but this is what's happening to me. As God's walking over, and I see him walking over, the pole let me go. And now I'm watching God walk over to the pole. And he's taking the tetherball down. You know how you reach up and you unclip it? He's taking the ball and the string down. And he's walking over and he's giving me the ball. I'm sorry, he's giving me the ball and the string. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing because I'm emotionally literate. I'm spiritually literate. You can see things in the spirit world. He's giving me the ball and the string and I'm holding it. Okay? And he's turning around. He's going back to the post. And he took the post with his hand and he pushed it into the ground. And then he waved me by and said, okay, now go. And he set me free. I don't know what that thing was. I know what I believed that I was going to ask God for. And I know that that's the feeling I had. That's the thing that was holding me down. So now I got this ball and this string and I'm walking away. And I'm excited because I don't know what the ball and the string are. But I know it's something good. Because God's grace heals us emotionally. He heals us. And you might only have a thought, emotion, and feeling and hold it. It's like you got to cook it. You got to catch it, take every thought captive under the obedience of Christ. The obedience of Christ. Your purpose. It's what you've been called to do. Your purpose, your obedience to Christ. Look, the desire of your heart, right? The word desire, the things that you want to do with your life, the things that you've always felt like, I really wish I could do this. I really wish this would happen for me. These are your desires. The word desire means from the Father. De means from, and sire means the father. Like when a horse is the sire, it fathers the horses. God has put your desires inside of you so that you can respond to them as an emotionally literate, spiritual warrior and intervene in everything that's happening in your life, point by point by point. When you're sitting in the car, when you pull into the parking lot, you bow your head, you close your eyes. If there's fear there because you have a business meeting, you go get the fear. And it's part of you have to go through the fear to get to the dream, right? You get the fear and you hold it. Like you're at a bonfire. You're going to cook. You're going to cook your fear. Put the fear on the end of the stake and hold it over the presence of God and wait for God to move, because when you rest in his presence, he gives you an answer. It literally says, Scripture says, if they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Now listen to this. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall walk and not grow weary. They shall run and not faint. Another scripture says, if the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in you, which is what this process does, it allows God to come in with no resistance to take it away, then it shall quicken your mortal body. It'll quicken your mind. It'll quicken your body's health. It'll quicken your intelligence. It'll give you wisdom. He says, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of me, and I shall freely give it to him. But when you ask in faith, the expectation of good. Ask as if you've already received it. You already believe good things are going to happen. You're expecting good things to happen. You say, Lord, help me get this. Help me figure this out, because I cannot do this on my own. This is the problem. The victim is trying to do things on their own, and you can't. You never will. It'll never work. You have to be in a place where you're practicing spiritual law and you're practicing your faith and you're on the playing field speaking things into existence because of your expectation of hope and because God has given you the desires, He has given you the purpose, He's given you the dream, and He's going to help you get there as you learn to trust in Him. How do you trust in Him? You close your eyes when you have a thought, emotion, or feeling that is not comfortable, that is negative, and you bring it to the Lord and you let Him cook it. You let Him change it. You let Him transform it. Why? Because we don't get caught up in the things of this world. We don't get caught up in the thoughts, emotions, and feelings that control us, that the media uses to control us, that friends use to control us, that our family uses to control us, that our bosses use to control us. You get caught up in the things of God and you allow Him to transform you. Don't get caught up in the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, the renovation of your mind. That process we just did was the renovation of your mind. It's the renovation of your spirit and your being, your soul, your identity. Listen, everything is about identity. Everything is about who you believe you are. If you start to understand how things work in the spirit realm and you become spiritually literate, when you become emotionally literate, when you become divinely literate, you work the 3 laws, you're going to start to understand that you have a purpose. And the more you move into that purpose, the more you're going to feel the presence of God. And you're going to experience the one thing every human wants, and that's to be happy. That's it. You're going to be happy. Mark this video down. Mark it down. Don't lose it. You might never find it again. Mark it down now. Put it in your saves. Follow it. Do something so you can get back to it. Go and copy the link and put it in your notes on your phone. Put it someplace where every time this happens, you can go back in the video where we do the part where we see God intervene in a situation in our life that we have no control over. And then we wait for God to work on it. Because the final part, when you see the problem and then you bring it before God, the last part is to trust that He's going to get it done. And these are the magic words. Listen, the words I'm about to share with you, they're magical. They're spiritual. They're so powerful. I cannot even begin to explain. Everything that happens to you in the future will happen based on these three words. And the 3 words are, I don't know. That's the 3 words that'll change your life. Because every time your ego and your flesh come back and say, well, that didn't work, that didn't do anything, there haven't been any changes, nothing's changing. You tell your ego, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know that God is working behind the scenes because I've removed the resistance so that the natural law of abundance, the natural blessings that God has laid on us that I was resisting, I removed the resisting so God can move now. And you say, God, I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know. I don't know how you're going to do it, God, but I'm trusting you. You said, Lord, you said, test me if you don't believe. Test me. I'm trusting you, Lord. I don't know how you're going to do it. That has to be your motto. I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've had people say, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, they need a plan because they can't go away in peace until they know what you're going to do. They don't understand, I don't know. They're like, well, then we need to sit down. Listen, it's okay to say, I don't know, because that means that you're not trying to figure it out. You're not trying to fix it. You're trusting God to lead you and guide you when it's time to do the work that needs to be done. I'm going to say one more thing because I think it's important. Fixing things on your own and figuring things out on your own are the two worst things a person can do, because we don't live in the fourth dimension and we don't know what's really going on in the world. People who surrender, they just surrender situations to God, get the best results every time. All wealthy people understand this. They just do their best and expect things to happen for them. They have an expectation of good. People who are emotionally illiterate, they have to figure it out. They can't go to sleep at night without, they can't just say, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do. Good luck. Good luck with this one. Good luck with this person, Lord. They've been bothering me for 20 years. I don't know what you're going to do with them. But if you trust God and you surrender it to Him, something happens. It always does. And you're going to be able to write it down, because it's going to happen. And so figuring it out, the scripture says that when the Israelites went into bondage in Babylon, they went into bondage in Babylon as slaves. They brought two gods with them, the god Bel and Nebo. Those two gods represented wisdom and strength, the ability to figure it out through wisdom and have the strength to fix it themselves. And because they trusted in those two gods instead of trusting God, they went into bondage, into Babylon. And God says they carried those gods on the backs of the oxen, of the cows that brought the Israelites into bondage, into Babylon. So don't try to fix it. Don't try to figure it out. The Bible says, the scripture says, come unto me those who are weary and heavy laden. Heavy laden means unwarranted precepts. In other words, lies, unwarranted precepts, things that aren't true. Come unto me those who are weary from trying to have the strength to fix it themselves. The gods that were carried into Babylon. Come unto me those who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Come unto me those who are weary, which is the God of strength, and heavy laden, which in the Greek means unwarranted precepts, which is the God of wisdom. If you're trying to figure this out and and it's not working, and you come to the Lord, and He'll give you rest. That's His promise. He will give you rest. Why? Because you're going to do the process we did, do the work. That's work. You're going to have to fight. That's your battle. Spiritual battles in here. Before you can fight anywhere else or do anything else for God or anybody, you have to go fight the war that's inside of you.